Hello everyone, and welcome to today's in-depth geopolitical review. In this video, we will explore the latest developments from the Trump administration regarding global diplomacy, focusing on two major areas: the pursuit of a peace deal in Ukraine and the escalating tensions with Venezuela. These developments are reshaping international relations and carry implications not only for the United States but also for Europe, Latin America, and the global economy. To fully understand the current moves, we need to step back and examine the context of U.S. foreign policy. During the Trump administration, a distinctive strategy emerged, combining assertive diplomacy with economic leverage. The U.S. has consistently sought to maintain global influence, particularly in conflict zones such as Eastern Europe and politically tense regions like Latin America. In Ukraine, the conflict began in 2014 with Russia's annexation of Crimea, escalating into a full-scale war following the 2022 invasion. For the United States, supporting Ukraine became a critical foreign policy priority, aiming to defend democratic governance while curbing Russian expansionism. At the same time, the U.S.-Venezuela relationship has long been strained due to political differences and concerns over drug trafficking, economic instability, and human rights issues. The Trump administration's approach has been increasingly hardline, including sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and now, what can be considered a highly assertive military-adjacent posture regarding Venezuela's airspace. Recently, U.S. officials, in collaboration with Ukrainian representatives, have initiated discussions aimed at a potential peace deal. The talks took place in Hallandale Beach, Florida, and involved key figures such as Senator Marco Rubio and U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. These meetings were described as productive, signaling a tangible effort to mediate an end to the prolonged conflict. The proposed peace framework includes several critical elements. 1. Military restrictions, limitations on Ukrainian forces in certain regions to reduce hostilities. 2. Economic cooperation, post-conflict reconstruction plans involving energy infrastructure, industrial revitalization, and financial assistance. 3. Security guarantees, negotiating Russia's security concerns while ensuring Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. While these steps may seem promising, several sensitive issues remain unresolved. Key among these is the future of Ukrainian territories currently occupied by Russian forces, the precise nature of security guarantees, and ensuring that any agreement does not compromise Ukraine's long-term independence. The Trump administration is pushing for rapid progress, partly to prevent the conflict from further destabilizing European security and global energy markets. Russia has indicated cautious optimism, with President Vladimir Putin stating that U.S.-Ukraine negotiations could form the basis for a future agreement. However, analysts caution that without addressing core territorial and military issues, any agreement risks being fragile and temporary. The Ukraine conflict is not only a geopolitical issue but also an economic one. Global oil prices, trade routes, and defense budgets are all affected by developments in the region. If a peace deal succeeds, it could stabilize the European energy market, reduce sanctions-related disruptions, and create opportunities for reconstruction contracts and economic partnerships. However, there are risks. A poorly negotiated peace could undermine NATO's credibility, embolden Russia in other regions, and trigger renewed tensions if security guarantees are perceived as insufficient. In short, while the peace talks represent hope, they require careful diplomacy to avoid unintended consequences. Parallel to the Ukraine initiative, U.S.-Venezuela relations have taken a confrontational turn. Recently, the Trump administration declared Venezuela's airspace a no-fly zone for U.S. purposes, signaling a heightened level of tension. This move effectively asserts American control over regional airspace for security monitoring, citing concerns over drug trafficking, human smuggling, and potential military threats. The Venezuelan government responded strongly, calling the measure a violation of sovereignty and a neo-colonial threat. President Nicolas Maduro condemned the action, highlighting the risk of escalating conflict in Latin America. Experts argue that this is more than symbolic. It reflects the Trump administration's willingness to apply hard power in regional diplomacy, aiming to pressure Venezuela into compliance with U.S. demands, particularly regarding security and human rights. Analysts warn that such measures could destabilize an already fragile region, affect oil markets, and strain U.S. relations with neighboring countries. Latin America has historically been sensitive to foreign interventions, and this move may trigger both political and economic repercussions beyond Venezuela's borders. Although these two issues, Ukraine and Venezuela, may seem unrelated, they are connected by a common theme: the United States' effort to assert influence in global conflicts while managing strategic risks. In Ukraine, the U.S. is balancing diplomacy with the need to support an ally under threat. In Venezuela, the U.S. is demonstrating hard power and enforcing its geopolitical priorities in the Western Hemisphere. Both strategies illustrate a broader vision, maintaining U.S. leadership on multiple fronts, shaping outcomes in critical regions, and deterring adversarial powers like Russia and China from exploiting instability. If negotiations succeed, Ukraine could stabilize, reconstruction could begin, and Europe might see a reduction in energy uncertainty. This would boost the U.S.'s diplomatic credibility and potentially strengthen NATO alliances. If unresolved issues persist, any agreement could collapse, potentially reigniting conflict. Russia might test NATO borders or engage in hybrid warfare, and European energy markets could remain volatile. Increased U.S. pressure could trigger retaliatory actions from Venezuela, including regional alliances with adversaries like Russia or Iran. Humanitarian and economic crises could intensify, further complicating U.S. foreign policy. Both scenarios have direct consequences for oil prices, international trade, and defense spending. Investors and governments worldwide are closely watching these developments, given their potential to reshape global stability. In conclusion, the Trump administration's simultaneous engagement in Ukraine and assertive stance toward Venezuela represents a pivotal moment in contemporary geopolitics. On one hand, there is a historic opportunity for peace in Ukraine, offering hope to millions affected by the war. On the other, there is a clear risk of escalating tensions in Latin America, with far-reaching consequences for regional stability. Ultimately, the success or failure of these strategies will depend on careful negotiation, diplomatic finesse, and strategic foresight. For viewers, this is a reminder that global affairs are interconnected, and decisions made in Washington can ripple across continents, affecting millions of lives. Thank you for watching this full analysis. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth geopolitical updates.